Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Mark.
Sorry about that. I was messaging Sam Crick to tell him I can't be interrupted because I'm broadcasting to the nation. So,
I
yeah,
wouldn't say we were broadcasting to the nation. That's a bit of an exaggeration, isn't it?
yeah. You got something in your mouth?
Mm.
Well, that's not very professional, is it?
Well, if you've got a sore throat, you suck a sweet.
Oh, have you got a sore throat?
It's like,
Oh, okay. Well, I hope you'll be all right. Right, it's episode 16. It's the 8th of April, 2020. I think we worked out last week we're 3 weeks now since we pretty much went into an isolated situation. We're taking this extremely seriously. I think we've been pretty good, but I think I had my first moment this morning, didn't I?
oh, you did. It was very touching.
Yeah, yeah. And what brought that on was a guy, a very English gentleman on GMTV, talking to Susanna Reid and Piers Morgan. His name's Hilton Murray Phillipson, and he was on at 6:45, and I think he was on for about 15 minutes. And he was talking about his experience where he lost his 92-year-old father to this coronavirus, and he ended up in intensive care himself. Was in a very bad way, and then he came through and he got a standing ovation from all the NHS staff who'd looked after him. And his account, I don't know, I've had a look around. I think there's clips of it, but I don't think there's a full 15-minute version of that interview. But it pretty much sums up to me what this is all about. And yeah, it was incredibly sort of uplifting story in the face of adversity that he put over to everybody. And you watched it on +1, didn't you? I got you to watch it back, didn't I?
Yes, you did. You did. Yeah. But I also saw it on BBC One as well. So I've seen two versions of it.
So yeah, his name's Hilton Murray Phillipson, and
And his mum and his sister are in hospital. I believe they're still in there now. So
yeah, so it really brought it home. Whilst we're talking about other things here, and thank goodness, I think most people we know have been okay. You know, it brought about the seriousness of the situation. Yeah.
absolutely. But on a touch of that, you've got football managers meeting people in parks, and does that obviously doesn't apply to football managers, does it? No names mentioned, but it's all over the media, etc. I mean, honestly, get a grip, you lot.
He's special though, isn't he? So it's okay.
Well, in his opinion.
Yeah, well, there might be circumstances behind it. Who knows? I haven't read into that, so I won't.
There isn't any circumstances. We've been told.
Yeah,
Only go out if you've got 4 things. If you're looking after somebody elderly, which he was not, going to get food, which he was not, exercising, yes, but either with your family or keeping your distance. What bit doesn't he understand?
Well, I don't know what day it was, so
no, I don't know either, but honestly.
Might have been a picture for 4 months ago. Anyway, the media clearly have stirred it up, as you were talking about it yesterday, and getting onto feedback. I mean, that's quite a good segue you've got there, because one of the bits of feedback was from Peter Scott that fully agreed with Dawn's assessment of the media and how it was controlling our emotions. Well, it's fired you up this morning, isn't it?
Oh God, am I just? I mean, you have Piers Morgan talking about what the Prime Minister's in intensive care. How are the government going to be able to do that if we have a nuclear attack? I mean, everyone's got coronavirus, for God's sake. Or what is he thinking? Yeah. He's now got people thinking about something dreadful. He's trying to scare the shit out of us all.
Wait, there's kids might watching this. Careful.
No, it makes me very angry. It's irresponsible.
And my mum might watch it. Yeah.
Well, sometimes you have to say what you're thinking.
Oh, and you've got fans out there, they'll all go with you on that one. But I just like to watch the language a little bit. I won't edit it, but because you
I only said one little thing. That's all I've said, and that's all I'm going to say.
Anyway, I'll flip it round because, yeah, as we say, the distancing, the social distancing is absolutely key. But one of the great bits of feedback I got last night, or this morning actually, because they're on a different time zone to us, is again cousin Hubert from British Columbia in Canada, who fed back the fact that they are seeing signs of the curve flattening, and number of cases in British Columbia have dropped really as because of social distancing, and it's starting to pay off. So that was a real glimmer of hope there, really. So that's good news. It shows it can work. So fingers crossed for them, and I hope that continues. He also continued his podcast feedback on, you remember I mentioned the Philosophize This podcast he recommended for
yes
yeah, which I don't suppose many people have had a listen to in the last 24 hours, but he listened to it while he was painting his 2-story chimney. So not really ever going to find myself in that situation to listen to that sort of podcast, I suppose.
Definitely not. You don't like heights. Oh dear.
So that's not going to happen. And he had a good point, actually. I think putting this broadcast out on Facebook, it's not really for the kids, is it? It's it's an older person's social media, it seems, these days, and we're not hearing much from the younger generation and how they're experiencing the current situation and what's going on. So if there's anybody watching who's a bit younger, Lily, Sophie, Slack, etc., then it'd be nice to hear from you and how you're getting on in the current climate, wouldn't it?
They're running around the garden.
Yeah. We also heard from Nikki Coombs, again talking about social distancing and saying how she's been practicing it with her husband Chris for a number of years now anyway, so and seems to work very well. Yeah, even watching TV in separate rooms, so thanks for that, Nikki. Then we heard from Grazia, who liked the commercial break section at the end of yesterday's and wanted to give a shout out to Pete Mason Landscape Gardening, who did her garden in 2012, even before they'd met through the athletic club, and she has an amazing garden. So another recommendation for Pete and his landscape gardening. And then finally, on the feedback, Andy Poppleton threw in a couple of non-sporty podcasts, Business Wars, which I think they're 30-minute episodes, and How I Built This. Oh, Business Wars is about companies going head-to-head in their market and how that evolved. And How I Built This is stories behind companies and how they were built. So it's nice to know we've got some intellectuals watching this, isn't it?
Absolutely. I totally agree.
We mix with the right people, don't we?
Yes, darling.
So now I just would like to give a shout out to what's going on in our sport, which is the 5K virtual relay. It already picked up last night with the people running their 5Ks around the country and logging them on Strava and OpenTrack and creating teams out of it. And that's reaching a crescendo with the last day today. It's been going on since Saturday and raising funds. Of course, everyone's doing it in isolation and raising plenty of money, well over £5,000 now for the NHS charity. So that's going well. I was getting quite excited, wasn't I?
Anything to do with sport you get excited about. It's your lifeline. So I understand that. And yes, your competitiveness comes out, doesn't it, really? Let's be honest about it.
Yeah. I had some entertaining dialogue with some of our runners to get them sorted. But this brings me on to a point that Lewis Moses wanted to ask you. Stemming from this and my question about technology in sport, why is it that the Americans seem so far ahead? I mean, particularly with athletics, or track and field as they call it. Why are they so far ahead in the way they can report the sport and the technology involved in getting results out there so quickly and the stats than we are in the UK? And as a top official, have you seen any great instances or examples of technology being a little bit different in the UK than you normally come across. That's from Lewis Moses in.
Well, the technology is there. We tend to use it when there's like the Worlds or the Olympics, etc. We don't necessarily use it on an everyday day. The Americans have like said, right, we want this, etc. They're very tech savvy, and we do have a few companies that do it. The problem being is that it's not that expensive. It's what you want. When you put a little meeting on, like the SAL, no disrespect to the SAL, but a lot of techie companies aren't going to come and put your results up immediately. It's going to be the big meets that you're going to get this technology, not the small meets. But of course, in America, you get that technology all over the place because that's what they want, and they sort of they've got the money, or I don't know how they do it, etc. But yes, they are advanced to us, read technology, but we do use it at the big meetings. The results come up instantly. There is instant feedback, and then you go through the call, the mix zone, and you do your interviews, etc., etc. And without the results, you're not going to be able to do that. So that's that. But I mean, for an everyday sort of like open or something like that, the technology is fantastic to give people feedback, but it's a cost that a lot of clubs won't be able to afford. And so until you get to the point where it's ready, available and a reasonable price, it's not going to happen, is it?
No, but you've made me think, because quite often I think one of the aspects of our sport, and perhaps other sports, and it'd be good to hear from the viewers, is that the older generation are not good at releasing responsibility to the younger generation sometimes. And so when you talk about a Southern League meeting, wouldn't it be good if the responsibility for the computer and the results was given to a younger person, and that younger person could then upload quite quickly, because there are the reporting resources in the UK to do it through Power of 10 and other aspects, and could do it very quickly, almost on the spot. I'm sure they've got the technology to do it. So I think one message I would have is, to clubs and sporting organisations, is let's try and engage those younger people. I'm talking about people in their 20s who are tech savvy, but I have a bit of experience of the sport and what's required. But I think that could make a big difference. Going back to America, I think one of the big benefits the Americans have got is that sport is a big commercial enterprise. It goes around, driven by the American football, at college level. The point was made to me years ago that they don't have the American football professional teams in every city, and so we've got the soccer teams like Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, all these teams in the UK. But what's happening is because of the distances, the college sport plays a more prominent part in certain areas because the professional teams are further apart than in the UK. So what happens is the local community get behind it, huge sponsorship goes into the college football and the basketball and the like, but the national college system is organised that then they have to use some of that money to support the more minor sports. So that feeds through. And so when you've got a sport where 100,000 stadium is watching American football, and the manager of the college team's paid about $5 million, it gives you an idea of the scale of the thing. So getting built-in electronic timing at tracks takes on a different cost relevance, if you see what I mean. Amazing.
It is. And it will be a small thing, because everybody in the UK wants electronic timing. They want the best result out of their effort, which is, to me, you've got to have the technology behind you, and you've got to teach people. So I mean, but I think we've had years in the official starts where they don't want youngsters coming through. They want to protect what they're doing, and to me that is wrong, because that doesn't mean that you can revolve and carry on and make it better. I mean, lots of people are about protecting what they do, and I'm not necessarily going to be like that. I mean, I go and do a job, etc., and that's it as far as I'm concerned. But I would like to see some improvements, especially at the sort of like lower levels, etc., so that it can be made easier. But it takes a team of people. It's the same old people who volunteer. It's the same people who run the meetings locally, who then go on and do national meetings, etc. It's the people with drive that want to get qualified, that that allows the sport to continue to develop. But somewhere along the line, someone's got to think, oh, what shall we do? Shall we have technology? I mean, it's not easy for us. I mean, we've been talking to the school about photo finish, etc., and I think they're pretty keen. And I was surprised that they wanted to do photo finish. But it does mean that at local school level, these children are getting the best results that they possibly can, because it's done electronically rather than a manual timing. And there's always going to be arguments to do it. It's just a question of driving it forward, finding people to do it, like-minded people.
I think it can also market the sports or sports to the youngsters. You know, if it's done through an app on their phone and stuff like that. I mean, I'm talking off the top of my head here, but trying to put down with the kids again, you know.
Exactly that, because when you finish your race, the first thing you're wanting to know is what your time is. Not necessarily your position, but you want to know if you've got something set in your mind when you're on the start line. You want to know what time it is, and you've got to be sympathetic to that, because at the end of the day, no official is standing around for their own good. They're standing there because they want to help run a meeting. And so at the end of the day, you want the best technology as you can. But for grassroots, it's almost non-existent. I mean, the meetings that I go to, there are very few meetings still that have photo finish, and I do wonder about it. Is it the cost to the club, etc.? I mean, or is it the technology, or is it? I mean, I can name, for instance, Ashford have got a photo finish system, but very rarely do they use it because they haven't got people to use it, because the people who were trained up have then gone on to university and left the club, and they've got their lives, they have jobs, etc. So I think you're going to have a mixture of people. It's not just about getting youngsters involved. I think it's going to be sort of like a mixture of people age-wise who are going to have to drive it through, etc. But I agree that technology is the way forward.
Right, well, I think many thanks to Lewis for stimulating us there, and quite a serious episode this morning. And I haven't looked at my watch, but I think we've gone on quite a lot of time. So maybe we could leave it with a bit of responsibility to some of our viewers from other sports who might be able to provide some feedback on what is working in their sports. And I'm talking about at club level, not at local level, not national and international level, and what technology is working well to not only encourage those participants but also promote their sport. That would be very interesting. There's a challenge to everybody. But yeah, thanks very much. Have you got anything to add, Dawn?
No, that's it. I think that'll do. I'll say goodbye. Bye.
Well done. And I will say, don't forget, if you get a chance to look for Hilton Murray Phillipson and his address to the nation, it was quite stirring. So thank you very much. Oh, she's gone. Thank you very much to everybody for watching, and hopefully loads of feedback will be coming our way. Have a good day.